Thank you for being here. Over the past week or so, I've been receiving a number of calls from concerned citizens. The concern is not a new one. Uh, it's one that has been in the minds of most Guyanese for quite a while. And it is about whether the elections would be free and fair. And I guess that in Guyana, there is a heightened sensitivity in this regard, largely because of the history of rigged elections in Guyana on the PNC. And now that some of the same players who played a central role in the rigging machinery of the past, they are prominent in this new government. And secondly, this concern has been given new energy, largely because of the constant stream of shenanigans that we have seen emanating from GCOM. And so right across Guyana, this is a huge concern. In the PPP's stronghold, many people ask me this question whenever I go across the country. And even in our outreach, like when I go to places that never supported APNU fully, the PPP fully, but now are more inclined to do so. And the stream of people who come into my office here, many of them are hardcore APNU supporters. They're saying their view is that the PPP will win the elections, but can you guarantee there'll be no rigging? Because there's no pathway to victory for APNU if the elections are not rigged. And these people will not want to leave office just like that. They argue, look how they behaved when the no confidence motion was passed. They put the country through the trauma of having to go all the way to the CCJ. They invented reasons like 34 is the majority of 65, then distorted the decisions of the CCJ, distorting the Constitution and what it says. They've hung on in spite of the law, in spite of the court ruling, in spite of the condemnation from the international community, and in spite of all of our efforts and protests, that they've hung on, and largely because of the perks of office, and they will never want to give this up. So I say to them, this is a legitimate concern, because we must never underestimate the capacity in the APNU camp to try to tamper with the election results. And we have seen this happening all through their actions at many levels. However, that must not paralyze us into making it sound as though it's inevitable, because we have to work to prevent this from happening. And I want to assure them that we are working assiduously with our international partners to ensure that this doesn't happen. And in this regard, I think that the Secretariat, particularly the chair of the Secretariat, who came into office, not the Secretariat, but the Commission, the chair of the Commission, Elections Commission, who came into office with enormous goodwill on the part of all Guyanese, having replaced the illegally appointed Mr. Patterson, that she has a special role to play in ensuring that Guyanese are not in this state of disquiet, and she needs to allay their concerns that within GCOM itself, there is a process that could lead to their disenfranchisement as Guyanese, or alternatively to any process that will tamper with the results of the elections. And that assurance has to come from the chair herself. And so what we need from every week after the meetings of the commission, we need clarity as to the decisions made in that particular week. So almost every Tuesday, we have commissioners who come out, sometimes from both sides, and give their views of what took place at the meeting, and they speak extensively of proposals that they have made. But we don't have the chair of GCOM saying, here is what we discussed, or here are the things that we discussed, and these were the decisions made that were commission's decisions. So going forward, we need that clarity to avoid confusion among people or disquiet. And secondly, the public must constantly be educated. Elections is not about the conduct of elections, is not about what takes place in behind closed doors at GCOM, in the commission. It's about the public and their involvement and the voters and the electorate and standards. And this needs to be constantly kept in mind. So having said that, I would have thought by now, having been there for a while, that the chair would have by now ensured that the decisions are made. These are simple decisions about an international presence in GCOM as a quality control mechanism to ensure that nobody tampers with the list, nobody within GCOM disenfranchises any Guyanese. And when I speak here, I'm speaking not just as the leader of the opposition or the general secretary of the PVP, as a Guyanese, because what I say here has an impact for all voters, whether you're an APNU voter or a PPP voter. But clearly by now, we should have had the clarity on this issue and a decision made. So we heard that the green light was given to the Commonwealth, and we're happy about that. And that there is a Canadian who will be advising the chair here. But we are aware that UNDP for a long time now has made available the services of someone to have oversight in their IT department. And that within GCOM, there seems to be a consistent refusal to accept help in the IT department. That is oversight over the IT department. And what has happened here, the IT department is critical because it is the department that produces the list. And it is also the department that will help to tabulate the votes. So these are important things that should be, we actually need the oversight there. I'm aware that UNDP has offered that oversight. What we have is distortion at the level of the commission, that they want oversight into media monitoring and want UNDP help in that regard, but not oversight in IT. And clearly by now, it's a simple decision to make at the commission level, that we will accept oversight in every area because it's crucial to the quality of the elections. But why is there such a big reluctance to accept oversight here? And this is a simple decision by the chair. It's her, at the end of the day, she is overall in charge. And I thought by now she would want to have second opinions, more people looking out to see that everything is done properly if they want free and fair elections. So critical to the going forward is the IT department oversight over IT too, and the early acceptance and installation of the oversight mechanism, international oversight mechanism. Why we have had this delay from simple decisions so far, I can't explain it. It just doesn't, it defies logic that if you want free and fair elections and you want them to be helpful in the discharge of your duties, you should embrace all international support readily. The second issue that leads to the confusion that I spoke earlier in the electorate, and GCOM, as I said before, they have a duty to keep the electorate informed, not make them more confused, are the proposals that gain currency in the media that emanate from some of the commissioners. So we heard a commissioner exit the GCOM meeting and spoke, Mr. Corbyn, spoke about this proposal that will have, or I think it was Alexander, to remove the names of 28,000 people from the voters list, and these may be PPP as well as APNU supporters, who did not uplift their ID card. Now you know that that issue has been dealt with by the person who is the chair now in the Esther Pereira court case, where it was ruled that ID card is not necessary to vote. By now, the chair, from the time that proposal came up, the chair should have said, we're not entertaining that proposal. That's illegal. And shut it down right there. Not to have it find its way into the media environment and still seem to be giving it energy and oxygen somewhere in the commission. It's illegal to do so. We will face a legal challenge if we ever try to remove people's name from the voters list because somehow they didn't go in there to collect their ID card, although they don't need an ID card to vote. They can vote with their passport or any other document. That's illegal. She ruled that illegal, as well as Justice Roxanne George. That should have been shut down almost immediately. But still, it is a matter for discussion and gaining currency. These things should not confuse the electorate. Secondly, there was another proposal to highlight people who did not go to the house registration or get registered there. Although that process was stopped prematurely, it was never completed because of the court ruling, which says that the purpose for which this house-to-house exercise is being done, that is to replace the NRR, is illegal. GCOM stopped the exercise. So not every Guyanese got a chance to register because the exercise was stopped by GCOM after the ruling. And then to say that on the OLE, on election day, those who did not get registered there, their names would be highlighted on the voters list. That's discrimination. That's discrimination against those people. And they did not get registered because you stopped it, and now you want to highlight their names for enhanced scrutiny. So you have two categories of voters going into the polling place. Then who makes the discretionary call? It's the presiding officers. not the law. That also will be illegal, to single people out for discriminatory treatment on the basis of the list, OLE, when they go into the polling place, that some names are highlighted and some are not. So that also should have been shut down immediately and not allowed to gain oxygen. But it has been in the public domain and confusing the hell out of people and creating worry that people will be subjected to the caprices and the biases of many presiding officers on elections day. And the third issue has to do with this recent news. I mean, I think it was Mr. Corbyn in this instance who said that on Thursday, that is today, they will publish the names from the house-to-house registration, the 370,000 names. So this again is very confusing to people in the absence of a clear position as to how, if they're going to merge this data, how such a merger will be legal, and if it's possible, how it will be done without compromising the statute, that's the law, and people's rights and the integrity of the voters list. There's no clarity from the chair on this matter. So already we hear merger, no merger, 370,000 names, or it's only the new people, all of the people, or only the new people name being published. But let me say to you, the law says that for you to conduct claims and objection, that is where people whose name are not on the list can get on the list. People who want to effect a transfer can have that transfer done. People who want to change their names, etc., who might have had an error, can do so. There's only one statutory process to do that, and that is the publication of the preliminary list of electors, which was done. And so on this list, you had 600 and something thousand Guyanese. So now you can go check your name there, and if you find your name accurate or you find some error there, you can fix it, or if you're not registered. That is going on now. We have 35 days for that activity. That is the claims part. Now we hear about this list being published. So this cannot be a supplemental list if you're publishing 370,000 names, because a supplemental list by its definition would mean new names. For example, if you make an error or you have some people who will be on the PLE who are not on the original PLE that you're using now, you can probably, maybe if it's allowed, which is a stretch too, but you may make a case for putting forward supplemental names, that's new names. This is not a supplemental list, because this list will have the names of people who are already on the PLE if they publish 370,000 names, or the whole house-to-house database. So you have a PLE, an official PLE out there, and then you have a list which can be called a supplemental list, but a list out there with other people's names. So there is no statutory process to say you have to go to check your name on that list and correct it. You have to go to the PLE. So that's a huge hurdle. That's a huge hurdle to cross if they intend to publish the 370,000 names. It requires the laws. It will come in contravention of our laws and create a ton of problems for Guyanese. Confusion again. So imagine you don't check it. You finish with a PLE, the claims and objections are over, you voted in the last few elections, etc. you're okay now. You think you're okay. They produce their revised voters list. And if they use any data from the house now, incorporate it in the revised voters list, but make any error, your picture error, have the date of birth wrong, or your ID card number wrong, etc. You don't have a way of correcting it. You might be disenfranchised on election day if they incorporate it unilaterally into the revised list, because you have never had a statutory process like the claims and objection to deal with it. So it is raising a lot of issues. Now, we thought when they said merger that they will try to see the new registrants only from out of this list, because you can't remove people who are already on the list and then publicize those new registrants, which will be run into a few thousand, and then just a manageable number, and then try to see as far as possible to get those names incorporated. That's what we thought, but it seems as though they've embarked, we're not clear as yet, and it's very, very confusing and can lead to an elections petition. And what is even more worrying, we heard that of 180,000 people had sent up to scan, they got 20,000 new registrants there, or some new names that were not matched, the fingerprinting nor cross-referencing. So if you extrapolate to the whole database, the 370,000, that's from 180, then that's 40,000 new people, which is impossible. Impossible in the house. And that is why we are saying the house-to-house data, we have received information that it is contaminated. Now, it's not only unscrutinized, it's unverified. Not unscrutinized because our scrutineers were not there, but unverified. The 3,000 odd enumerators, many of them sat in at bottom houses and fill up forms without any regard for details. We believe a large number of people who are below 18, their names were added. So they will show up differently with different fingerprint on the voters list, but they're underage, large numbers. And that is why we believe they're fighting so hard to include this unverified data into the database, the NRR or the OLE, the official list of electors. So we have to be, and if the commission, the chair too, allows unverified data that's not running the test, they should be tested, first of all, for accuracy, independently, to contaminate the database. There will be no excuse for anyone else, because we've been raising this issue over and over again. And so you can't claim lack of knowledge. And even after this is over, when they finish the OLE, there will be tests on database. We'll ask the international community to do some tests. And if they find the database contaminated, this would have implications for the timeline for preparation. And one person, well, the commission, but more so the chair, would bear responsibility for this, because they can't claim lack of knowledge. We've been raising these matters a million times. Seems as though there's no attempt to stamp an authority to say, we will verify everything. We don't want to take, first of all, the PP doesn't want to take a single voter off the list. That who is Guyanese and who meets the requirement of the Constitution of Guyana. That's one. Two, we want every new person to be registered to have a right to vote. And they can do so through the claims and objection period. We want people's name them to be accurate, etc. What we are fighting against is any attempt to put in on the database unverified data. And the obligation is on the chair and GCOM to verify everything before they get onto the OLE, because that is what used to happen in all the cycles, the 15 cycles of continuous registration we've had since since the house-to-house registration in 2008. 15 cycles and 4 elections and several sets of claims and objections to ensure that people who are on that database have been verified. That is it. But to replace their names with unverified data will create confusion, and I'm warning, we're saying this because if anybody is left off of the list, including APNU supporters, you know where the blame will lie, because we've been pointing this out over and over. But we're speaking to our international partners. They're aware of these concerns too. They view them seriously, and we're aware of people who are working inside. You know, up to yesterday, we had cause to write GCOM because the letters are going to people now to say in the house-to-house registration, they had not completed their transactions correctly. They must go in now to get those corrected. That's done. That's over with. The exercise was stopped. They shouldn't have even been writing people. You have to focus on the claims and objection period. So we get this all the time. We have these attempts at trying to tamper with the process. So I want to urge all Guyanese, make full use of this period, the remaining period for claims and objection. Get on the list. If you haven't registered, please do so. If you know anyone in your area, the villages or the wards in the city who hasn't done so, please take them in. Get them registered if they're new registrants, or if they move into your area, get them transferred into the area. The right to vote is a serious issue. The right to vote is a serious issue, and to choose your government. And we should not allow anyone to harm those rights. And so we will keep, I'm raising these issues at my press conference so nobody says later that they are not known, because, but I want to assure the citizens of Guyana that we are constantly watching out for any attempts to tamper with the voters list and the elections results. I gather today the AFC just hosted a press conference, and they claim they had from Trotman side, a pause in the negotiations for their prime ministerial candidate and the splitting up of the spoils of government. Because the talks that they have, it's not just about the prime ministerial candidate. They're already sharing ministries. Who will get what if they win the next elections? Which is a massive, massive if. Huge if they get elections. But they already want to share the spoils just in case. So let me say, I'm not surprised that there is conflict, because the greed machinery in the cabals on both sides, the businessmen, you have businessmen aligned to both sides, and also some of these apparatchiks, they're all jockeying for position. So it's either through the AFC or the APNU. And so I'm not surprised that the talks would be stalled, etc. And then again, I know that Moses Nagamotu and Raphael Trotman don't share the same view as some of the other executives of the AFC, that Ramjatan has to be the presidential candidate. In fact, I believe they've been working with APNU to get APNU to take a position that Ramjatan should not be the presidential candidate, the prime ministerial candidate. So You have a lot of that. They're working with the APNU side, and you see signs of it. So Trotman could have assured, I saw a story in the Marara Waves where this is what it says. However, AFC Chairman Raphael Trotman insisted that an agreement would be reached, but he declined to say whether that would see Ramjatan being accepted as President David Granger's running mate. There will be an agreement. I'm confident about that. He's been assured from the inside there will be an agreement, and he will fight for an agreement. They will have an agreement. This is all, they can't go separately. They're locked together through a system of corruption. They know each other's secrets. They've shared the spoils in office for the last several years, and they know each other's weaknesses and stuff. So they will have to come together to defend themselves collectively. Because we have a ton of things, evidence about corruption in both camps. And so inevitably, Trotman is right, they will come together. But I'm not so sure about the Ramjatan. So somebody said to me that it's going wrong in social media that the PPP wants Ramjatan. And I think that Ramjatan and his cohorts have been spreading this rumor too, as a negotiating leverage that if you don't take me, I will go to the People's Progressive Party. So this is negotiating leverage. Let me say to you, I'm the General Secretary of the PPP, and that's far from the truth. Very, very far from the truth. So we don't want to be used as negotiating leverage within their talks. So you have a lot of wickedness going on over there. I've heard they want to come up with some new names, etc., but the new names are still people who've been tainted by the corruption and the incompetence of this government. This government is totally useless, incompetent, useless from top to bottom and in between. They're all useless. Totally. They can't formulate a single policy. You give me an area and I tell you how confused they are about policy making. They can't defend the interests of Guyana. They don't look out for our people. Nothing. And all they're busy doing every single day, you see transfer of resources in this period. So the last week now we see a minister got prime lands in Linden, preferentially, no house lots there, etc. But that's an ongoing thing. I don't think that surprises Guyanese anymore about what is happening in this period through Nissil and the other places. We've spoken about this. So don't worry with all of this, about this cabal here. They're eventually going to get together and they're going to find a way of excusing any decision they make Ramjatan or no Ramjatan, and eventually sell that as the best decision, and then they will embrace each other and say they're part of the losing team. So this is something I thought I'd share my views on it since it's so current and it's going on now. And then Cathy Hughes, I heard, had the temerity to speak about the oil and gas sector and what Ramatar, I heard at the press conference, and Ramatar signed 2 agreements. And her husband's name is on the agreement with ExxonMobil, representing ExxonMobil, their office. Not the name, but the office, his office. And her party was also leading the negotiations. They have no integrity. Go to a press conference and talk all day about integrity and how they believe in principles. And this is the most unprincipled party in the world that is basically, well, maybe not in the world. I think I'm going to find one other country that they're ranking parallel with. But then goes and pretends to be something that they are not. But I don't think people are buying that anymore. So let's talk about the same party. And the spin now. Every day as you see these sponsored posts out of the government agencies, spending taxpayers' money, putting all sorts of things online about the progress they make, even using images that are not images that are, in fact, the positive images they're using are from the PPP era and switching the thing around. I've seen some cases where they're taking a picture and saying, look how it is now. And that picture was taken from under the PPP of progress in a particular sector. But those sponsored posts have no basis in reality. It's all spending taxpayers' money, and it's trying to create an impression that they actually fulfill their promises. So the AFC's last column talk about wheel of progress is turning. And Gary Best, they have these, their advisors gave them these keywords. Wheel of progress is turning. Gary Best talk about, what did he actually say? He doesn't say much, that they're turning Guyana's future around. That was his thing. You know, these slogans, nice, lofty slogans to fool people. So listen to some of the things that they listed as progress. The AFC said the duty-free concessions for machinery imports. This is their article in the Kaichor News, October 20th, 2019. The progress made under them, right? The new AFC. Duty-free concessions for machinery imports. You all know that machinery had zero VAT before they took office. They put a 14% VAT on machinery and equipment. Now, so if you're in mining, manufacturing, forestry, any other sector, the rice industry, you now have to pay 14% tax on your combine, your plow, your excavators, everything else, all your machinery and equipment. And they put that as one of their achievements. A total lie. This is what, and somebody, you know, a Guyanese who may not be so discerning would say, really, they did a great job there. So secondly, they put remigrants get 5 million tax-free for vehicle imports. So that is supposed to be progress. Before that, the remigrant got his vehicle imported duty-free. So now they said, we're only going to limit you to $5 million. Anytime your taxes exceed, say, some vehicles, you pay 15 million. So if you have, say, you're living abroad and you bring back, you're a legitimate remigrant and you bring back your, say, a Land Cruiser, the taxes are $20 million. So you only get up to 5 million in tax write-off now, when you could have brought in your entire Land Cruiser to duty-free back into Guyana in the past. So this is not a progressive measure. This is a regressive measure. It's taking things away from remigrants. On the other hand, Jordan's son can buy a vehicle without any tender from GRA for $300,000 and another member of his family. Total cost, taxes and purchase price included. So that is what they said. Over 5,000 new jobs created. Imagine this. We lost 11,000 in sugar and its allied sector, those who depend on sugar alone. Look at the people in Linden, Ituni, and Kwakwani. They had a thriving industry there. We gave nearly 600 persons a community forest. They had enough tags to earn a living. We ensured they had markets. Things were booming in that area. Now people have moved to a phase where starvation practically in some of these communities. They need food and stuff, help. And so that's another lie. Then the communities in the city, towns, inland, poor, remote, and hinterland areas now have access to free internet. I can show you a million places that is not true, And the only places they're putting in the free internet into the Amerindian communities is because we left from the LCDS 17.2 million US dollars for this project, for expanded IT into the hinterland areas. I can go down, gold production has jumped to 700,000 ounces. It jumped because the gold mine that was built under the PPP started producing in 2015. And that's why it went up. But if you look now at the gold production from locals, that has dropped significantly because it speaks about bankruptcy of local miners because of their policies of taxation and bad roads again. So everything, so 50-50 Jubilee payment plan benefited 2,800 house lot applicants. So this is something about, they gave a little write-off for some people who were buying house lots when they went for the Jubilee. But not one of those house lots was produced by APNU in the 5 years now. This is their 5th year, not one. These were house lots that were there under the PPP or they repossessed, that were created under the PPP that they gave out, and they gave a little waiver. We plan, they increase the cost of most of the house lots. Our plan is to do at least 40 of the 50,000 house lots below $100,000 and take back the lands that they are giving to their crony. So this is it. I can go down the long list of things that they listed, how they created new tongues and a revolving fund created to help entrepreneurs. I don't know how many entrepreneurs. You talk to most businessmen, small and big, they're going bankrupt now. I don't know about this revolving fund. And if they're revolving, it's revolving in the pockets of the ministers. That's where it's revolving from the treasury straight into the pockets of the ministers. That's their full circle, the revolution there. And this is the sort of nonsense we get from them. It is, and Guyanese must believe this, but they're counting on short memories. Short memories. That's why they're going out now, making all the fake promises again. And that's why you see all these sponsored ads. So where people would say, oh, it was so bad under the PPP in the health sector. We had drugs available at the hospitals. Look at all the scandals. HDMI, Ansa Makala, a whole range of other scandals. The drug bond, running into billions of dollars. Not a word about that. We had, we trained over 1,000 doctors. Now many of those doctors are leaving. You see, one even gone into criminality now. So that is it. And then to compound that, that's the AFC. Then Granger goes to New Amsterdam. And he says, in the Starbuck News article, he says he's a constitutional president and the government is a constitutional one. Now you know anybody who starts his speech off by having to defend that is unconstitutional. Anybody who has to start off, because nobody speaks about that if you're there legitimately or legally. Nobody says I'm a constitutional president and my government is a constitutional one. And so Lincoln Lewis now said that the Chief Justice ruling recently made the government legal. This is only the Lincoln Lewis would believe this. A Lincoln Lewis group. Now, nobody in New Amsterdam believed that. They already know that this government is unconstitutional, that the international community condemned them for this, being unconstitutional. They acted in defiance of the CCJ. They're unconstitutional according to the provisions of Article 106. So he is unconstitutional, illegal. But he says, I have a plan for New Amsterdam. I have a plan to make New Amsterdam the engine of growth in the East. The eastern region of Guyana is about to see the transformation led by New Amsterdam. Then he goes on to say, New Amsterdam is going to be a model for other regional capital towns. without fear of being mugged, extend social protection, and provide quality public services. He says New Amsterdam must be a place where citizens from neighboring countries and the regions would want to come and shop and conduct businesses. So, where is the plan? These are like all, we've heard this from Granger for the last 10 years, the same nonsense. This is all like, I get up in the morning, I like your face, I don't like your face, that sort of nonsense. What kind of thing is, I thought when he named the plan, I would see, okay, I plan to do X amount of incentives, there'll be this job creation incentive, we're going to build an industrial estate and provide a special incentive regime for New Amsterdam. He's been there for four years, this is the 5th year, and he says now they're going to see, and he hasn't defined anything. So I was looking for this 5-point plan that he's talking about. The 5-point plan is in his head. He gave the Amerindians a 10-point or 15-point. I can't even remember. Up to now, they're looking for any of the point in the plan. Linden, in the last elections, you check it. You should 11-point plan they had for Linden. Not a single one of the points being put in place. He point plan, he always point plan. Nonsense, pure nonsense, and expect us to believe this. 11 points, you get it, and make sure that they put it on the party page so you can go and read the 11-point plan he had for Linden. And people are suffering, no jobs there. Go to New Amsterdam, ask the young people there. Had we not done a couple of things there? They closed the sugar industry. What do you think the people from Tukburg were in New Amsterdam were doing? Many of them were working at Rose Hall. They don't have a job now. Didn't tell them anything. The money spent from Rose Hall, people used to come and shop in New Amsterdam. They used to at least employ some people there. Now everything is dead. And he goes there, and the army had to go behind him, had to shut down the town. People search the people there just to tell them this nonsense. And then he is a very funny president. He has a sense of humor. So he says, so I don't know if the person who did the calculation used to work at GCOM, because once upon a time it had somebody at GCOM who can count. I know from March 2nd they learned to count, he joked. So imagine this president telling people they can't count with the 34 issue. And saying 34 is the majority of 65. They're all nonsense. Oh, New Amsterdam will become the education capital of the country and the region and everything else. Sloganeering. And I heard he told people, obviously he wanted to get away from the plantain chip and cook up after he made that thing, say we must all do that. And we love the cook up and plantain chip, but we can't all sell it. So he said to New Amsterdam, you mustn't sell cook-up and plantain chip. He went to the other extreme, trying to get away from his early comments. Election time now. You must go into agro-processing. So they're just shutting down the agriculture there, but they must go into agro-processing. They don't have no factory there. You put taxes on machinery and equipment for agriculture and for everything else, but they must go into that. What is this nonsense that we have to suffer through all the time? And so this is their new thing. Now everywhere they're going to launch 100-point plans and stuff like that. We heard it all before the 2014, the 2015 elections. So I just saw the GPEX thing again, and the last time I spoke about it, I didn't realize that this Valiant is a questionable company, and it's connected to people in the government. So I just thought it was a useless exercise where foreigners will come and help to define how we move forward in our oil and gas sector, trying to, and of course, try to cream all the opportunities here. When they come here, they'll cream all the opportunities for themselves and pay, and that the fee structure was designed to bring in those people. So I thought that was the case. I thought that the case was, since it's jointly organized by the go invest, and Department of Energy and Granger will speak there, that they don't have the right to speak on policy now, they're caretaker, but in any case, they don't have a policy in any of the areas, not on local content, not on anything associated with oil and gas. They're making things up on the run. And you'll go and get another 10-point plan there from Granger. So we thought it's a waste of money. It's a they shouldn't be doing this at the expense of Guyanese at this point in time. But now it's complicated because I heard now and we see this. And the third issue is that it was very misleading, that I thought. When they listed the US Secretary of Energy being on as a speaker there, giving remarks, and he was never, I'm told not only he's not coming, he never confirmed coming. So if you market this around the world, to say the US Secretary of Energy will be here, people will pay their 2,000 US to come to your conference. So now there is a corruption dimension to this. So from all of these perspectives, this is an activity, and for all of the lobbyists who've called me, etc., this is an activity that we will have to expose, continue to expose. It's not helpful for Guyana or Guyanese, and therefore we must not support it. I've seen the GNBA to seek international help to monitor airwaves during elections, and I'm glad Mr. Sobers has now made a sober statement. So the thing is that, but it still speaks about, he said that the Freedom Radio and the others, because of all these infractions. In the article, it's a bunch of lies. We never had all of these infractions. And we have specifically why they wanted to find the Freedom Radio. And it had to do with issues like calling Granger. Somebody called him a charlatan on the radio or something like that. Frivolous things. But if Mr. Sobers and the others want to act professionally, we'll treat them professionally. We don't have a problem with that. We believe that a regulatory body should police the entire sector equally, but not to interfere with free speech in this period. If people, on libel and stuff like that, people can go and file a libel suit. They have to look at, are people crossing some barriers? Not whether they think Granger is useless or not. That's not the barometer or the standard which you measure. You look at, are they dividing our people along ethnic lines? And that should be a high barrier, in fact, a high standard, and it should be uncompromising in their actions against people who do that. It should be uncompromising, whether anybody calls into a program on the PPP side or APNU side, or any radio station or TV station. That's the kind of thing, or dividing people along religious lines, etc. That's where they should really be policing. Not about free speech. A man says Granger or APNU is going to try to rig the elections. You want to tell him how to say that. I was told by one reporter that they even wanted to tell him how to structure his news report. That's not their role. But if they're doing this and approaching it in a responsible way and they want to get international help and stuff like that, we don't have a problem with this sort of thing. I don't want to disparage them, but from our experience so far, it looks like police state methods they were using, obviously instructed by Nagamutu and the others. But now, if they hope they act professionally, we'll respond in kind. These are just a few of the things I wanted to talk about. I would like to also congratulate our presidential candidate for attaining his doctorate at the University of the West Indies. Thank you.
So I just have 3 quick questions. On all that you had to say on in about GCOM and what's going on there, and the fact that you know based on our history, the view of the chair on the ID card situation and our situation, which you should have shut down, which you didn't. Do you now, in retrospect, think that you might have erred or in your trust of this individual, or you continue to believe that your decision was a good one?
I believe that Justice Singh served the country well as a judge, and I believe I'll continue to believe she has great integrity. What I believe is that she has to understand that this is not the court. When you're a judge, you make a decision, you expect people to your staff to faithfully carry out the decision or a ruling. That in GCOM, it has become almost like a political machinery, and that people who come and chat with you, they may have ulterior motives. And therefore, you have to get into the technical details of what is being discussed, and also stay on top of what is being issued by GCOM to see that it faithfully represents the views of the organization and not individuals. So those press releases that we had that were erroneous, misleading, etc., she has to have oversight over all of these things. And then, of course, to try to get an independent group that has no stake in the election to be advisory to her and the commission, so that a third set of eyes. And I would have expected her to embrace this in a swifter manner. But that doesn't mean I'm questioning her integrity.
Okay, a follow-up question, please. I was finding hard to believe that you don't know, because you have commissioners and stuff, you don't have an inside knowledge of what's going on. Is it a case where the chair is given direction that aren't being followed at the lower level, or is it that she is not given the required oversight?
I think a constant stream of bad advice goes to her. Constant stream from the machinery. Even sterilized advice from the staff. There'll be meetings with the staff, and by the time it gets to her through the central office of the CEO, then the advice is distorted. And that you have a constant pressure from these commissioners who put up proposals, like you see all these proposals. So if you ask me if she should be a bit more informative and strong, I say yes, that's what I'm saying. But it's not an integrity question. But look how the same point I'm making, just to illustrate that point about the bad advice. The commission decided that the claims and objection will be 28 days, right? And then for claims, and 7 days for objection, 35 days. Lowenfield took a draft for her to sign that had 49 days. And then when that contrary to the commission decision. So I'm just giving you that idea. It's not that he didn't know. He didn't know about the commission decision. He sat in there. That's it in writing. But taking that to the chair, I would think that she assumed, they faithfully represented what we discussed, so I sign on to it. And that one, you also had another, what was the C? They had inserted something on C in the order that was removed. I can't remember the issue. Huh? Have to go to verification. 100% would have to show up. All 600,000 people would have to go to the registration center. That's impossible. Never's been done before. Inserted there. She had to remove that too. But somebody took it to her. Who took it to her? And that's what I'm saying, that constantly you have this sort of thing. And if she's not vigilant enough, then this will happen.
Okay, may I have two questions?
Yeah, sure.
You spoke earlier about the closing down of the sugar factories in other areas and stuff. Is this a concern about the vote turnout as well? Because many of these workers who lost their jobs would have left the country. Did you do any work on the ground to ascertain what amount of your support base have diminished because of this?
Yeah, but a lot of them are still here. Most of the people, yeah, most people are still here. They're looking for jobs. They're having a hard time, and some people left Guyana. Some of them actually work abroad for short periods. You know, but maybe they're going to come. A lot of people go and come and stuff, but not just there. If they make the mistake of thinking, well, only in the sugar belt, but lots of other people across Guyana have had to travel. People have gone to Antigua, they've gone to different countries, many have gone back to Trinidad, some up to the States, and not from Berbice, from different parts of the country. Because they always do this ethnic count about voters' numbers, but they don't realize people of every race travel, and they also look for jobs overseas. So they always do that kind of ethnic count, who was traveling out of the country and all of that.
My final question has to do with the new parties, and if the PPP sees this as a successful, and knowing that many of the parties, the leaders of the new parties that are coming up, or former supporters of the coalition. Example, we saw the report about Vidal, then there's Royal Johnson and the others. Do you see this as feather in the cap?
It's not feather in our cap, because some of the parties play this view that both parties are the same, and we take issue with that because our policies are very, very different, and a lot of them don't have the courage to say that, and they're scared of criticizing APNU. So you're right in a sense that a lot of them were with, most of them, in fact, 4 of the 5 parties were closely linked to APNU, their leaders, and the other one, the 5th party, that leader did not support us in the last elections too, although it may not have been in the APNU camp. So almost all 5 of these parties were with APNU. You're right in saying that. For us, there is a space for everyone. And that's the position we're taking. We just want to say to them, if you come after us, I saw one leader of one party, not a leader, but somebody who appeared with them, been saying some very derogatory things of the People's Progressive Party. And I have not responded as yet because that particular person, he is dissatisfied because of corruption with APNU, because of corruption. He wanted something too, and he didn't get the perk there. Another person got it, another APNU person got the perk. So this is from one of the, I don't know if he's a deputy leader for some party or not. But once people are free, if you criticize us, we'll defend ourselves. But right now, we're not picking no fight with anyone. They have a space, they have a right to do so, to create political parties. They have a right to do so. It's a free country, and APNU is trying to take away that freedom. And we should be happy that they will also not just want to talk about things, what they will do, but they would also help in the fight against the excesses of this government. I don't hear anybody fighting for probity at GCOM and a clean list and free and fair elections and all of that. I don't hear them speak about these issues. It seems as though we have to do all the heavy lifting on these matters. So I would welcome their involvement in these other issues, but it's a free country. People have a right to join which or set up whatever party they want.
Accepting oversight assistance.
Did the PPP GCOM commissioners inquire why?
There was this particular decision because we believe the offer from UNDP was distorted when it went to the commission to create the impression that the offer of IT assistance, that's oversight or collaboration in IT, that offer was no longer available and there was offer for media monitoring. And that impression was created at the level of the commission. And so there was a report, the commissioners asked for a report directly from UNDP, not to get that distorted view. That should have come up Tuesday and a decision made, but it was not done. That decision was not made. But there's been some approval, as I said before, for the Commonwealth and the Canadian, etc. But should be a sense of urgency to get people in now, particularly on the IT section, because that's where the preliminary lists and all the other lists are being generated, and therefore you need oversight now in this period. And I suspect they're trying to delay oversight until the OLE is created, which could have flaws. But even then, we will ask for an international testing of the list. So you can do random testing to see that that none of the data from the unverified data would have contaminated the list from the house to house.
The Canadian electoral official.
No, I gather he had asked GCOM to arrange that meeting, to meet with me. They never reached out to me because he's working through GCOM, but they never got in touch with me, and so the person left the country, the Canadian gentleman left the country. But I think he is aware of the concerns. I suspect he's reading the newspapers, and this is why we try at every press conference to highlight these concerns so that the country knows what's going on. Thank you.